This is Magic 95.9 FM. The Wade and Carter Show is a paid programming, and KHMC Magic 95 assumes no responsibility for its content, and the Wade and Carter Show bears all responsibilities for their opinions and.
The World Series began last night. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also discuss the latest around Chris Pratt and the Avengers star in a little bit of a controversy. The Peanuts holiday may not be showing on a TV screen near you. All that and more coming up on today's Wade and Carter Show. Oh, just flew my eye.
Can't read my writing.
No. Hey, good morning.
Good morning, my friend.
How are you?
It's been a fun one already, huh?
It has been.
We made it work, though.
We'll make it work. Let's do this real quick. Wade and Carter weather brought to you by Deerland Feed, the only place you need to stop for all your farm and ranch needs, pet needs, lawn and garden supplies.
What was that worm you were calling it?
Army worms.
Army worm.
Yep. They're more than just a feed store. They've got everything you need to make your yard, acreage, ranch thrive and look good. 71 degrees, some fog in the area, going to get up to about 90 today.
Another nice, cool one,
Yeah.
Low humidity, no mosquitoes. Beautiful.
I'm not complaining because they've got snow back in Calgary.
You know, that's a good point.
So
That's a good point.
I will just take this and enjoy the nice evenings, the beautiful sunsets.
Yeah, the evenings aren't nice. I'm battling with those mosquitoes. You know, that's the only thing that's
They've
killing
got
me.
stuff at Deerland for your mosquitoes. The stuff that'll get rid of them quickly, and then the one that'll stick around and last a little bit longer. So go talk to Lacey and see all of the products that they have that'll help you take care of those problems.
I need to, because those things are getting me. They're getting me. And my kid, it makes it look like he has a measles because he has these bumps all over him. We look like bad parents.
Yeah, I had a bad reaction as a kid to a mosquito bite one time.
Did you really?
Swelled up like a chipmunk. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Oh, that would scare me if I walked in and Truman's head was all swollen up from a bite.
Yeah.
But the parents love that.
I killed their family vacation that year after that one.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so. Lisa Poole, first one in. Good morning. Karen Webb, HR Mallory. Bobby Leister, good morning. Chris Jansen, C.W. Bean, David Glass, Marvin Mickish, good morning. James Kurth, Patrick Strauss, Robin Moore Knipling, Judge Posey, Randy Langston, Scott Snow.
Going strong.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape.
Check the
I
mics.
don't know. It looks like it's where it needs to be.
I'm not even going to pretend I know.
Andy Ria Jr., Bobby Leister says we've lost 29 YouTubers down to under 300 now. That's
Did they go to my page, Bobby?
maybe they did. Maybe they did.
I wouldn't take yours.
Maybe
I wouldn't take them.
Maybe they're rationing who they subscribe to.
There can only be one.
Yeah. Sheriff Louderback, good morning to you. Chris Conrad. Everybody's saying the mics, but the mics are on and working, and
Both mics.
that's in. Let me double check one thing. Carry on.
Now that I've got this opportunity alone, I'll tell you guys about the Caleb Shaw show here. If Wade and Carter, they're going to be stepping off and letting me step in for a while, and it's going to be now the Caleb Shaw show in the mornings. Now, I can't even get the mics right. We've this morning we had power difficulties and extension cord difficulties, but we're still here. We still made it, and hopefully that fixed whatever mic issues we were having.
So let's see. Hopefully that fixed it.
We got a thumbs up.
Well, we got a thumbs up, so maybe they're working. I don't know. Some people might appreciate the mic's not working. There we go.
That's a good point.
There we go.
All right. Guess this was
Interesting. All I really did was just turn the knob down, turn the knob back up, and
Oh.
But whatever.
We're in the game.
We're in the game. Now we're here. So speaking of in the game, Tampa Bay was not in the game at all last night. They fell behind 8-1 and lost 8-3 to the Dodgers. So Dodgers take game one. trying to win their first World Series since 1988. The infamous Kirk Gibson home run, which did not win it for the Dodgers. I think it just won game 1, if I'm not mistaken, of that series against Dennis Eckersley. Look at that, Caleb Shaw show. Bobby Leister says, sign him up.
Well, I appreciate
Interesting
it,
show today. And completely unaware of what was going on with the dynamics and how this came together. But you have to step out early because you've got commitments. And
Mr. Baldwin.
Brett Baldwin's going to step in. And unbeknownst to me at the time, he's going to be on with you tonight.
Yes, sir.
So
no, it works perfectly. You know, you'll soften them up, get them ready, and then send them over to us tonight. And yeah, no, it'll be good. This will be a good yin and yang, you know, and because the morning format will give them, you know, some quick questions to so many of our sharp viewers here, and then and a little more long form when he comes over tonight, and we'll sit down for 45 minutes to an hour and just discuss stuff and get his questions. And so if you have any for Brett Baldwin that you don't get in this morning, send them over tonight.
Brent Carter found time in Cabo to wish an 60th anniversary, happy anniversary to his mom and dad,
Oh,
Ben and
absolutely.
Marion. We don't do that on the show, but if we did, we would wish them a happy
60
60th
years. That's pretty
anniversary.
impressive.
That's pretty impressive. It really is.
Hope they're having fun out there too. The videos look amazing.
Yeah, we won't talk about that Monday.
I try not to watch
that's just going to.
Yeah, I don't watch them too much, but
Yeah.
they're pretty awesome.
So, Brett Baldwin also running for VISD. He is the incumbent, has a challenger in Rick Streeter. So we'll talk a little bit about his race and VISD as well. So what do you make of the Chris Pratt flap? I know you're into Hollywood more so than me, but I found it interesting that he decides not to show up, and all the media can focus on is the fact that he doesn't show up. And the other, 4 or 5 Avengers that do show up to a Joe Biden event, they lose all. I mean, the whole point of having them there was to draw attention to the event. And Chris Pratt decides not to show, no reason given, but all the media can focus on is the fact that Chris Pratt didn't show up.
Yeah, and it, you know, it's kind of goofy. And so what? You know, if he doesn't want to show up, they should commend him for having his own, you know, his own thoughts and opinions. And maybe he didn't want to go to a Biden thing, and if he didn't, well, good for him. You know, and yeah, I don't know. That's what always gets me is, you know, there's no ways of them ever offending us, you know, or anything like that. But
No.
if he doesn't go to something, it's somehow some big sin that's been committed, and you know, a lot of it is just his Christian stance. And you know, he's never really come out on a political position. He's never really come out and you know, picked a candidate or anything like that. But he is a Christian, and he does serve the Lord, and so because of that, he's attacked. And I think that's why he's the least favorite Chris out there. But he's really our favorite. I think he's an awesome dude, and he definitely doesn't deserve the crap they're throwing his way. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing how the media will turn for nothing.
Right.
I mean,
and who knows? He could have had a dentist appointment or
You know,
something.
exactly.
You know, it's not like he came out and
and
said,
who knows? I
I'm
don't
going to
know
the White
what's
House
going
to
on.
support Trump. That's
Yeah.
not what was said. It was
No.
just he didn't go. And so who knows? He's got a newborn as well. And
There you go.
yeah, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to go somewhere right now because I got a little dude at home.
So Lisa Poole asking about the Houston Police Department officer, a sergeant, I believe, 41 years that he has served, and his name escapes me this morning, and I apologize for that. But killed in the line of duty over the weekend. The gentleman that killed him, I don't know if he was an illegal immigrant or not, according to what Lisa Poole says, but I do know he was a convicted felon. He was arrested on a domestic abuse or assault call, waving a gun around. So he had possession of a weapon, was a convicted felon. I didn't think that was possible.
Well, no, if they're convicted, they cannot get a gun.
Houston DA Kim Ogg, did I pronounce that right? I would think, I don't know. Not too up on the DA of Houston, but
I go with you.
let this gentleman out, gave him his gun back and his bullets. And from the reports I saw yesterday, this was the gun that killed the sergeant when they responded again to a domestic issue at that house. The ex-wife called him the first time. The ex-wife called him this time. When police showed up, knocked on the door, this jackass responded by opening fire.
Yeah, it's
Killed the 41-year veteran, wounded his partner, and somewhere in the incident, a 14-year-old boy was also shot. I don't think he was killed. Sergeant Preston. Thank you, Lisa Poole.
weeks before retirement too.
Yeah. Absolutely disgraceful. The people of Houston should be calling for their DA to be replaced or step down or whatever. It's absolutely ridiculous that the DA let this person go. Why aren't women's rights and women advocacy groups outraged at the fact that this guy was given a free pass just because?
Because they're further down the victim chain than he is, and so their grievances don't count per se. It's the best I can come up with, and because there is no justification, and it's
None.
disgusting, and it reminds us every day that the ladies and gentlemen that put on the blue every day and go out there and they wear that badge, they may not come home. This guy was weeks away from retirement, and now his family has a huge hole in it, a chair that'll never be filled at that table again, and that ripple effect will be felt for years through his family, and he went out to protect and to serve. And sadly, it feels like half the country doesn't have their backs right now. And it makes you think that, or it reminds us that we should support great organizations like the Victoria 100 Club that step in for fallen officers and step in for the family. And it's one of the organizations that I found that's not political. And anyway, it's this always brings me to my knees because my father's, retired law enforcement. And so it hits home. And so, we have great viewers in here that are, HR backs everything we do all the time. And you couldn't find somebody better. And that man suits up every day and goes out and puts his life at risk. And the least we could do is have their back. You see these videos now of cops fighting with people on the road, and people get out their phones and they video and they laugh, and it makes me sick. I sat out the other day across the street from an officer that had somebody pulled over for like 20 minutes just to make sure he was okay, and he was probably worried about me. What's this guy doing? I waved several times to let him know, but they have to know we have their back.
You're the DA.
So, yeah.
Or this idiot's the DA. Let me rephrase that. There was no disputing that he was brandishing a gun threateningly at his ex-wife. How does that not become enough to lock you up? And I know people say, well, they should have taken the gun. This guy's a convicted felon. He shouldn't have had the gun in the first place. They take his gun. He's going to go find another one because he's a jackhole.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the cynic in me but one of the first questions that came to my mind when I read this story is how does he get back in the house? You just called the police on him Friday, and Tuesday he's back in your house, or whatever it was.
Yeah, I've got nothing, and sadly, it's not the.
And maybe he used the gun to get into the house. I don't know. Again, the cynic in me, but a lot of questions that come around as to, was it. And then you can't help but wonder, was it part of an ambush? Because it happens so often in this world.
When we villainize cops so much now,
exactly.
We've made half the country thinks they're the enemy, and it's disgusting because for those same people, those officers would take a bullet. They would go again. If they make that call, Sergeant Preston would go again. And that's the sad truth of it. While you stand out there and cast stones and throw rocks, those guys just suit up and go, and they take those rocks and they take those stones and they still protect you. Sorry, that one takes me off.
So, yeah, I don't know all the details, but it's just with how the two of them ended up getting back involved in a domestic situation that I don't know.
Yeah, we got to just do a Wade and Carter and meet Victoria Shaw Realty back to Blue event and just go do a little thing here. Let them know we care about them.
Agreed.
So yeah. Anyway, what's our next subject? I'm sorry, that one gets me going, man.
Yeah, HR Mallory says that's just Harris County standard operating procedure for years.
Mallory, we stand with you, brother. Just so you know, man. Yeah, we stand with you.
Sad, and I've got father-in-law who retired from the RCMP. I've got an uncle and a cousin and a good friend who all managed to get through and serve and retire. So
it's hurtful because these guys, they have TVs, they have radios, they turn on and they see what people are saying about them. They see that the heavies and the grenades that everybody throws their way, and You know, most people have never go right along with your PD. Go up there, and Victoria PD would love to have you, or the sheriff's office would love to have you come up there and do a ride along. And go right on with the night shift on a weekend. You know, Friday, Saturday night, go ride with these guys out there. And then a lot of times it'll change your perspective on things, you know, and tell me you're not scared sometimes sitting in that passenger seat and tell me you'd shoot them in the leg and you'd make that calm call when you're getting your butt kicked on the side of the road alone and tired. And it just, anyway, deep breaths. Sorry. Just those guys, man, they're heroes. They're heroes. And they just, it's disgusting to me that we have a candidate for president that walks out there and calls them all racist and as if they suit up every day just to go hunt people. You know, it's disgusting. They go to protect people.
And has his old army of them that protect him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's always, you're right, it's always the people with the armed police around them that say you don't need them and call them names and yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder if the Secret Service just cringe when they hear Joe Biden or Kamala Harris just absolutely trash our police department. Well, and no knock on social workers or psychiatrists, but dumb down a profession, 2 professions, 3 professions, social workers, psychiatrists, and police, to a point where Joe Biden thinks that you can just put somebody who's untrained
you should have
to ride along with somebody to de-escalate a situation.
You should have sent a social worker to that house that Sergeant Preston went to and let that unarmed, you know, social worker answer. You get a few of those and those people getting their butts kicked and when they open the door and you'll see that line of thinking change real quick. There's a reason these guys carry guns. Yeah. And it's not just to shoot unarmed people.
And here's the other sad part of this. If it turns out the 14-year-old was shot by one of the police officers,
yep,
charges will follow because it's obvious that the DA in Houston has absolutely lost their way.
They'll try to mold it into the narrative.
Instead of adding charges to the cop killer for endangering his 14-year-old son,
yep,
throw it the other way. Good morning, Rhonda Elliott. Tom Price checking in. Roy Gutierrez says it was chaos at Memorial Herman all day. Heather Monroe says her grandfather was a naval RCMP officer. Michelle Hawkins says she's in on the Back to Blue event. So did BJ Nelson. Jennifer Marr says, just echoes what we said. Nikki Vincent said, funny, you waited to make sure the cop was okay. Nikki says she did the same thing last week.
Yeah, those guys, man, I'm humbled when I see them out there because that's everybody thinks it's one thing, but it's scary. It's scary. And you know, I've gotten that call from my dad too many times when he calls and son, I'm just calling to tell you I love you. Just calling to tell you I love you. We're about to go do something. I love you. And that's a scary feeling when that phone hangs up and you sit there and you wait until you hear your dad's okay, or your mom. Like it just, yeah. These guys are heroes.
Yeah. I can't even imagine taking that call. But obviously, your dad knew that there was a chance, right?
And he always wanted us to know he loved us, and so we got that call all the time, and it was scary. But he was doing what he loved, and it's the same thing as our military brothers and sisters. You know, if they die in a pile of brass, that's the way they want to go. But it's for honor and it's for their country, and it's not to destroy the enemy in front of them. It's to protect the people behind them and their country behind them, and you know, and that's what makes this country great is all the heroes that we do have and the people that will step out there and put their lives on the line for others. We need to honor that, not degrade it or defund it.
Concur.
I promise I'll let you talk some this morning. I only had a little bit of time, so I'm just going to take the mic and go.
Hey, speaking of a little bit of time, a little bit of time involved with Chesney Furniture when we're talking Chesney Furniture Company. They've been around for 100 years.
Yeah, that's not
They're not a fly-by-nighter. They've been downtown Victoria for 100 years. They've been at their current location at 116 West Wan Lynn for 70 years. They're going to be there a whole lot longer. And right now, as they celebrate their 100th anniversary, they're giving everybody 50% off all furniture in the store. They've got some awesome recliners. They've got some great living room sets. They've got everything that you need to outfit your home in time for the holidays, which are just around the corner.
And you know it's time for a new couch. It's about that time. Go ahead and go get it. 50% off. 100 years in business. Hard to beat.
It really is. CS Rocket Oilfield Services is the only locally owned and authorized AT&T retailer. Stop by all the companies under the VCS umbrella for all your needs. If it's communication, they have the answers. Whether it's something as simple as needing a new phone, you can stop by the only locally owned and authorized AT&T retailer. If you need a building wired, if you need Wi-Fi, if you need surveillance, if you want a fire alarm system, if you want a burglar alarm system, whatever, they've got it all. Exactly. VCS Rocket Oilfield Services is the only locally owned and authorized AT&T retailer right there on Kerr Boulevard, all part of the VCS companies. Stop by, check them out. First responders, you will get a discount on your AT&T wireless service.
Yep,
So
GCS
stop on by and
honors heroes.
ask them for the discount, and go get yourself a brand new iPhone 12. Allen's Record Service, folks, 578-6300, the only one we ever call. If we need somebody, because we're stuck on the side of the road, battery won't go, I've called them for jumps, I've called them for tows. Always responsive.
Yep, and they showed up.
Yep, they always do. And courteous, professional, they take care of you, make sure you're safe. And if you've
Way cheaper than I thought too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very affordable. They're not looking to gouge you. They know you're in need. They know you're stressed out. They want to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, I'd be fixing that in 102-degree weather that day. It was a lot easier to call those guys. They helped me.
Yeah, certainly is. Steve Gonzalez says we need to all start looking at who our elected officials are and make sure they have the character to stand for truth and not narratives. Leaders don't do what's popular. They do what's right, which leads me into maybe my next little rant. You know, Michael Cloud's a good friend of the show, and this has no bearing on that, but his opponent, Ricky De La Fuente, is running in this district for Congress. He's ran unsuccessfully in, I believe, 2 other states in the primaries and didn't win in Florida and didn't win in California, which is his home state, which leads you, make your own conclusions about the voters in Texas who decided to put him to the top of the ballot on the Democrat side. But interesting observation last night that here's a guy who wants to be elected to represent us in Congress, right? Which I would assume would be standing up for our rights. And yet he is blocking people from commenting on his Facebook page simply because he doesn't agree with what they might say. So how could you want to run and represent Americans when you don't even believe fully enough in the First Amendment to let people say what they want to say, even though you might not agree with it?
Well, how can he keep his echo chamber going if other points of views are interjected in there? That kind of messes it all up.
It kind of does.
Yeah, I've never, politics is an ugly thing. I get it. But at the same time, if you decide to walk into that arena and toss your hat into that ring, you got to be prepared for what comes from both sides. And
you would think.
Yeah, and not taking any, I guess when our presidential candidate, though, is doing that, when he's not taking questions and hiding in his basement, I guess it's easier sets examples for others, I guess.
Look at that. Roy Gutierrez says he got blocked last week by him.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I don't know if that was just a throwaway from them because they knew Cloud was going to have such support here and have that backing here that they just, I don't get how you vote for somebody that ran in 3, I like Mr. Cloud and he's from here, but if I found out he was running in 3 different states, yeah, dude, you're seeking power way too hard for me. Yeah. That's somebody that wants control and power in my opinion.
How do you even meet the definition of resident of the state, which I believe you have to be, if you're running in 3 states? If you're splitting your time equally, you're only living in each state a third of the time, right? So there's no way the majority of your time is spent in any one state. So how do you even meet any residency requirements?
Yeah, and much less know your constituents and who you're representing. That just makes no sense. I thought it was a joke at first when I heard that one, but and I don't know. It makes no. I guess nobody from the local area wanted to go against Cloud because he's in pretty deep here. That's all I got.
Makes you wonder if the Democrat Party didn't just try to fly in a candidate.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I wonder if it was just a burner vote, because they were not going to win against Cloud in that district, in that area, and so. I don't know. It makes no sense to me, and it makes even less sense that he actually won their nomination. So I've got nothing on that one.
Randy Langston says he's homeless.
That's,
Doesn't look homeless, but hey, can't judge a book by its cover all the time. James Kerr says he argued with him several weeks ago, then deleted the comment, and he can no longer comment on his ads.
I can't see James arguing with anybody online. Can you? That just
No, not at all. Not James.
Shocked. Who we got on the line?
Oh, we'll find out. Hey, good morning, Wade and Carter. Hello. Good. How are you, James?
My brother.
Yeah.
I don't know. We needed a segment on here like an Ask the Democrat, where because I'd genuinely be curious some of these thoughts.
We've thrown out the challenge on this show, or not the challenge, but the opportunity for him to come on this show many times. And
yeah, not even to try to destroy it, just to understand, because that's a great point, and I don't understand why would you, if you have local people. I'd feel terrible if I was the local guy that ran and got beat by somebody from California and not even here. Like, that would be just terrible. So I don't have an answer.
And all he says when people question his residency in Texas is, "I live in Texas." That's his only retort to it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't explain anything. Yes. Well, I think his family might own an apartment building here in town, or somewhere in the district is what I've been told. No, it doesn't mean you're a resident at all. So that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for letting us know about the local. And it also shows you the value of local elections too, and the importance of knowing who your people are that are running. Yep.
And an educated voter.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hate to say it, the system we have, and I don't want to call them uneducated because many are educated in other ways, but the system we have takes advantage of low knowledge voters when it comes to elections and the issues that impact their lives from a government standpoint.
Less policy, more popularity.
Yeah,
seems to be what's important. Yep.
Authentic.
Well, man, good talking to you.
Appreciate it, James. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Take care, brother. That might be the perfect segue for me to go ahead and bow out gracefully here as well. You're booting me out of here after you had enough of me, man. And
real quick before you go, I know you've got a young one. The Peanuts holiday specials.
Yes.
They first aired on CBS, I think, in like 1961. They went over to ABC a few years later. They were on ABC until fairly recently. They bounced around the different networks. But this year might be the first that they do not air on network TV.
That sucks. My wife really likes the Peanuts gang and all the Charlie Brown specials and stuff. That's always kind of been a staple in her world, and we don't have the Apple TV or whatever it is that they're putting it out on. And some things you just need to leave alone. And Peanuts on the holidays, I think that's it. We like Charlie Brown.
And Apple paid for the rights to it, and I mean, it is. We do live in a capitalist society, and good for them for ponying up, and good for Charles Schultz and his heirs or whoever controls that now. But it saddens me because those are always, you could just turn on the TV and there they were, right?
It's like if they could take the Christmas Story off, TNT or whatever that runs the 24-hour replays on Christmas. Like, it would just, we leave that thing running for a day and a half in our home, and it it would be weird. And yeah, some traditions, I don't know, the times they are changing, and when the peanuts getting on anymore in the holidays, it's, yeah, wow, that just feels different.
Didn't the same thing happen with It's a Wonderful Life a few years back?
You know, a lot of these things are, yeah, that one, and there was another one too that they're.
Because Lucy was hot.
It's funny. Yeah, they things are changed. Lucy, I was Linus in a play a long time ago, and Charlie Brown's cool though. You know, I always liked Charlie Brown, and again, it more so reminds me that things are changing, and some for the positive and some not so much. So, yep.
All right.
That good? You
had
enough of it?
No, I haven't had enough. You got to go, but thankfully we've got, we've got the next willing victim.
Yes, let's get
ready to stand in.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Ready to be sliced and diced by the surgical wit of our listeners and viewers. Brett Baldwin steps in. I'll take time to take a break here. JP Hall at Razor IT Solutions. Give JP a call. I'm going to have to give him a call. What happened to the 20-some-odd YouTubers that bailed on us from yesterday to today? I don't know what the answer to that is, but we'll find out real quick. I'll give JP Hall a call at Razor IT Solutions. He can help you make sense of your analytics, anything that your business does that is computerized, that is analytical based, that is data driven. He's the one to call, Razor IT Solutions. Atson Hopper Dealerships. Since 1926, the Atson Hopper Dealerships have been selling Victoria Chevys. Since then, they've added Cadillacs, Mitsubishis, Mazdas to the repertoire, to the inventory. All your favorite pre-owned models. They've got great service, great shop and body work as well. They can do it all for you. So stop on by the Atson Hopper Dealerships right across from Veracruz, which will reopen next week once they all get back from vacation. If they decide to come back from vacation, who knows? Looking at the pictures, I'm not sure they're convinced that they might not stay. And don't forget White Trash Services. Just because Brett's on vacation doesn't mean BJ and Scott Nelson are. They're working hard. 550-1826 for all your trash collection needs. Give BJ a call if you need just weekly residential trash collection in the county. If you need a larger dumpster, maybe you've got 2 or 3 family members living on the same piece of land. You want to centralize your trash collection to a dumpster, they can do that. You've got a special project. You're getting rid of a lot of stuff so you can restock your attic this Christmas with all the gifts you'll never use. Give White Trash a call. They'll bring a roll-off dumpster, load it all in. They'll haul it away. You never have to worry about it ever again. Give White Trash Services a call, 550-1826, and have yourself a trash-tastic day. Pleased to be joined by Brett Baldwin. Brett, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I tell you, I looked at myself on the screen. My kids are absolutely correct. I'm going more bald.
Well, you got a haircut, though. The last time I saw you, it was a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
Must have been the COVID or lack thereof, right?
That's there.
So, how are things?
Well, things are going great. I think our campaign is going off well. We're coming down to the stretch. We got less than 2 weeks still to vote. So I appreciate everybody going out there to vote. I'm excellently enjoying the time.
You're school district 3 trustee. You're the incumbent. You're running against. You're running opposed this time. Rick Streeter running against you.
Right.
I'm not going to get into his campaign, but tell the folks a little bit about you, your background. Mm-hmm. You know, where you grew up, what you do when you're not sitting at the VISD board meetings.
Sure. So I grew up in Victoria. I moved here in 1967. My mother moved here. She was a single mom and went to school here. Went to Vickers Elementary. Actually started at Northside Baptist Kindergarten. We didn't have kindergarten back in the day, and so my mother had a chance to take me there. And after Vickers, went to Howell, and then graduated from Victoria High School in 1982. And I guess what I'm not doing behind the desk, so to speak, I am a consultant, a small business consultant. I help small businesses. My background basically has been global, but when I moved back to Victoria, in 2012, after being gone for 30 years, I decided to see how I could help out. And that was a great opportunity for me to look and see where I could help out with schools.
And how's the consulting business going? Good?
Well, actually, it never is good enough because you want to make some more money. But for now, it's keeping me busy. I got a couple of projects going, so good. I can't complain.
Were you affected by COVID as well as in the consulting business?
Absolutely. You know, we were starting to do a lot of work with school districts in the rural area, and so they obviously closed down this past spring, and so we had to make some modifications. One of the cool things that we did was we helped students to practice interviews online. So my consulting business helps school districts to be able to help out understanding the needs of the local area, developed the curriculum for that area. And what we did was said to the employers there, we said, hey, how about doing an interview, or mock interview, I should say, online? And they thought it was a great idea, and off we went.
And even before COVID was such a changing part of the interview process. If you're on LinkedIn, you know a lot of advice on preparing for Skype and that sort of thing. So it's not a new idea, but in some areas that were just maybe really starting to get immersed into that virtual interview or virtual classroom,
Exactly.
might have been their first introduction for some of these kids into that atmosphere, right?
And for a lot of it is, and some of it is amazing how quality they understand the internet. I mean, they're more on top of it than some of our generations.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, for sure.
One of the things I enjoy a lot is that not only do they see about the interview process, but there's nowadays people are sending out tests for you to take in some kind of online, process to make sure that you're quality and that you have all the educational skills that they're looking for.
And business is so much more done via the interwebs and I hope it's not the case, but I could definitely see business utilizing Zoom more so than they did in the past, or Teams if you're on a Microsoft platform, or Google Meet or whatever it's called on the Google side of things. But I could certainly see a lot more businesses staying that way. I can see a lot more businesses working remotely in areas that make sense and not bringing everybody back to a office building or that sort of a traditional office environment. They may be allowed to work from home.
Absolutely. Most people are doing that today, and especially with sales, traveling. If you can do something, interface with your customer online, and follow up obviously with face, that's obviously a great opportunity.
So as a small business consultant, what has been the biggest change that you've seen from, say in the last years?
One of the things that really interested me is that people look at more certifications. They're looking to find out, do you have the credentials that you need, not only for helping them in the business, but most importantly, their employees. And that's something that used to be, if you went and got an education, you got a degree, that spoke a lot of volume. But today, people are more challenging, more looking at seeing what they can do, what you can do for them, so to speak. So they're asking a lot of questions.
So not necessarily additional degrees, but more continuing education and certifications. And I know higher ed is moving in that direction as well, with universities offering some of the certifications that you used to get elsewhere.
Yep.
So interesting. What are some of the demands, or what are the biggest needs of small businesses? Where do they really lack in personnel or infrastructure that they're needing your advice?
So one of the things I found that a lot of people do well, and that is service. And that service will take you so far. Sooner or later, you have to start planning and deciding what you want to do, how you want to grow your business, and really what's important to you is in your business culture. So what I do is come in and really try to the business that they're in. It may be very obvious for some people, but some people's businesses XYZ, but where they are thriving is in their service. And it just happens to be that the medium that they're doing is XYZ, and really what they're gaining more customers is from their service. So that's a lot of fun to come in and talk to them and find out really what business they're in, help them to plan, help them to take a look and see where they want to go with their business. And that just is business development in a nutshell.
Do they kind of forget? Or have they lost the business they're in some ways?
Well, I don't know about that, but they definitely take a look and see and say, okay, do we want to go to this market? Do we want to expand our product portfolio? How does that help bring value to their customers? And that's some of the questions that we have to ask.
Cool.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what's going on with your wife's business. Is this an opportunity to?
Yeah, we can jump into that. Gray Barn, the Gray Barn, event design. She'll help out with planning. It's not really her specialty yet, but we talked the other day, and she thinks just based on things that's probably a logical way she may end up going. But does a great job designing events. Will tackle any event that you have. But just brings it to life and really takes a load off the shoulders of those trying to put on the event. Brent and I talk all the time, and I'm not a big event design guy. I mean, imagine that. I don't have an eye for the things that she does, and she tries to explain what her vision is for this event, and I have no clue. And then I see it, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So she's good that way. She can visualize it and bring it to life. I can't visualize it, but then when I see it, it's like I'm amazed.
And so she's pretty good at making sure that she sees the client or customer's vision so she can make that happen.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
I think that's the one thing that, with this COVID situation, I got a chance to kind of listen in on some of her meetings that she had with folks, and she doesn't impose her vision on your event. It's your event. Yep. She wants it to be your event. Right. But there's nothing worse than an event that does not look well designed, right? And
maybe sometimes people don't really know what they want because they don't know what their options are and what she can be able to talk it through with them.
Exactly. So she does a great job. So give Cheryl a call, 920-6803, or check out the Gray Barn on Facebook, also on Instagram, and check out the great portfolio of events that she's done in the last year. Uncle Mutt's Barbecue, today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. They're going to be around all weekend. It's open 7 days a week. They'll open about 11 o'clock. The dining room is back open. So if you're craving great barbecue, whether it's brisket, ribs, sausage, chicken, turkey, they've got it all. And they're open till about 8 o'clock at night. So you can get your lunch, your dinner, your leftovers for the next day, all there at Uncle Mutt's Barbecue. Right there in Navarro. They'll open around 11. Went services for all your electrical needs. Here's a small business that started in the electrical business. They've expanded into hiring other people to do the things that you need to install a generator. You want a backup generator and you want it hooked up to your propane tank. Well, they used to have to call a plumber in to do that, and we'd wait on the plumber to be free and come do it. Not anymore. It has their own plumber. And so it's all certified. It's all right there involved under one roof. You can make that call. You don't have to try to coordinate schedules. You're not waiting for somebody else. Went gets it all done. And they found value in bringing that service into Went Services, and Went does a great job for all your electrical needs. Give Went a call, and don't forget USA Concrete Coatings. 578-HOME is the number to call. They can transform. Charlie and the gang can transform any concrete surface that you have into something that, hey, you'll be proud of, and you might actually even want to host parties on it. It's so cool looking when it's done. So check them out on Facebook, because it's amazing to see the before and the after photos of what they can do. It just absolutely transforms backyard patios, garage floors, shop floors. They can do this in commercial applications. They can do it into backyards, wherever. So check them out. They'll get it done in one day in most instances. In fact, that's what they strive to do. Try to get it done in one day to minimize, the inconvenience that you'll have from having to move all your stuff and put it all back. So how are things with VISD? I know it was a monumental shift in the spring to get everybody online, and I know there were challenges with the technology. Not everybody had access to technology. Right. So how did VISD address some of those shortcomings of their students and the students' families who didn't have access to devices or internet?
Well, we tried to do our best in trying to find out if we had any extra in our inventory. When we found out that wasn't the case, we sought out help from the public, and we really were pleased with some of the responses that were happening. Businesses stepped forward, made donations. People absolutely donated their old computers, even some cameras and things to try to make that work. And so it definitely took us all by surprise, and it really opened up the door for us knowing our capabilities and non-capabilities. Particularly, we realized that there were some staff and teachers that didn't have internet and they didn't have computers. And so that's something we've definitely been working on. I can't say we're out of the woods on that one, but definitely we need to get better enough. Now, that's an opportunity that I really feel that we need to do a better job at.
This will be your second term?
Coming up on the second term. I fulfilled an unexpired term of Lutz Svetlik, and so we should have had the election this past May, but we decided with COVID that it wasn't something that we wanted to do, and by suggestion of the governor, we moved it to this November. So in essence, I've been in 2.5 years. If I were to win this election, it'd be another 2.5 years as opposed to the normal 3-year term.
So what has been your experience on VISD serving as a trustee in the last 2.5 years?
Well, a lot of things that you think about that you want to do when you get in there, and sometimes you don't get the chance to, or they just move too slow. And that's one thing that people don't understand about me, is it just moves slow, and I want to see things speed up a bit. I have a great team that we're working with. We don't always agree on everything, but I think that's kind of healthy. And one of the things that I really appreciate that I feel like I brought to the table is a little bit more discussion on some of the issues.
Well, and I think you've got a reputation, and I don't mean that negatively or this negatively, but you're not afraid to be the dissenting voice on an issue if you don't agree with it. And I think, that's resonated with voters. Now, for the listeners and the viewers, where does your district cover?
It's a really great question. So if you can walk with me as Victoria is a clock, if you go 9 o'clock position, and as the west, and all the way to the 12 o'clock position would be the north. So the elementary school is a better way to put it is Allo for the west, up to Mission Valley, over to Charlemont and Vickers.
Okay.
So northwestern side.
All right, we've got a call. Good morning, Wade and Carter. Who's this? Hey, good. How are you? Thanks for the question.
Thank you. It's a great question. And I will tell you that I don't think I'm in agreement with you. And I think that EISD would never even gotten close to the 50 cents. So we're down at the 20s, and I hope to keep it that way.
Good. Hope that answered the question. If there's any more callers, you can give our calls or questions for Brett. You can give us a call 575-9509. What do you see as the biggest challenges for VSD? And there's studies or reviews out there that show that we're low performing or underperforming when you look at some, and you can slice and dice it, but the perception is that the educational performance of this district has suffered.
Yes.
Would you agree that's a fair statement?
That's very, very fair statement. Yes.
So how do you want to move the district forward to raise that and get us to the top half of the state or the top third in the state in that regard?
That sounds like you just gave me a great segue for a platform. No, I think the first and foremost is to make sure that we have a good vision, and that vision drives the budget. Because if you don't know where you're going and what you want to do, what you want to become, you can't begin to have alignment. You cannot begin to have the proper budgeting appropriated towards it. I think that you have to have great teachers. I think you have to have great staff and employees, all again rowing in the same direction. We did a study to find out some of the salaries of the teachers, and quite frankly, it's pretty obvious that we're not competitive. We're getting better, but we still got a long way to go. And so we did that study, and one of the things I asked the gentleman that did the study, and I appreciate that he did the study around the area to see what the prices were being, or the salaries were being commanded. He did a survey about some of the similar sized districts. But I asked him, I said, did you do a study and see what the salaries that are being paid for top performing, distinguished districts? That's where I want to know, are we competitive? Because if we're more competitive there and we can bring in those teachers and the right staff, I guarantee we can begin to elevate our performances. And not to say that we're not doing good now, but we've been thrown into the COVID situation, and I have to applaud our staff and teachers. It's amazing. They have absolutely stepped up. And this is something they've not been into new territory. I mean, think about a situation. You're teaching your class as we come back, but you're also still having to think about the viewpoints of the people that are online. You're checking in, make sure that they're there. Are they responding? Are they just sitting back? It's not easy being a teacher today.
No, and engaging them online is difficult.
Absolutely.
My brother's a teacher. I know the issues he has.
Where does he teach?
He teaches up in Calgary.
Okay.
Was a physical education teacher and a coach, and obviously that's not happening so much. But he also teaches business and a few other courses. So he's been busy, and he also oversaw a work study program. They get credit for the jobs that high school students have that can be applied to their high school diploma, and so he oversaw that as well. So
I mean, that's a great segue. So CTE, and I'm not saying, is it something maybe they're not interested, maybe they don't understand the value of the education that's going to help them in the future. So if they can be into a class situation that they're more excited about. You're going to have better attendance. You're going to have better cooperation. And so we've definitely worked hard at building the CTE, Career Technical Education. And hats off to Dr. Shepard for really stepping forward. I know I've challenged him on a couple of situations saying we're not where we need to be. The state actually offers extra money for us to do that. So that helps, pay for our programs and reduce the tax burden we have. And so that's, to me, it's a triple win. We need to do more of it.
And that leads me into a question: the tax burden. Tax assessments have been mailed out. 70% of most tax bills go to VISD, and people are angry about that. I think partly because they may not see the results.
Correct.
But what are your goals in trying to ease that tax burden as a trustee, or do you have any, or is that one of the questions you get most often, or what is? Okay, we'll part that question out later. We'll get that one next. But the tax burden is obvious when you look at that assessment and you see that 70% of it goes to VISD. How do you respond to the constituent who says, you know what, I'm not seeing that 70% of my, that's a worthy investment right now.
Absolutely. You look at it as an investment, and that's what it should be looked at, because we are helping to produce and train the workforce of the future through the education process. So I would agree with you. So let me ask let me comment. If you look back historically on the percentage of taxes that the state pays, as well as what the local property owners pay, it's absolutely flipped. It's been used to be 30% locally, 60%, and now it's about flipped. Don't quote me on those exact percentages, but you get the point. So that's more of a tax burden on the taxpayers. And so to answer now the other question that you parked, I'm always looking for non-tax revenues, ways that we can be able to find more monies to be able to operate, that we don't have to put that burden on the taxpayers. And I presented several, you can go back to the meetings, I presented several different opportunities, and some of them have been, okay, we'll look into it further. Some of them, no, we're not going there. And I'm like, why? Why? We need to do more of that.
Always a good question to ask. Why?
And to Dr. Shepard's credit, he has been working hard on getting grant money. And can't do the exact amount, but I want to say it's pushing $7 or $8 million this year. And that's a significant chunk for our budget and things that we'll be able to free up. Hopefully we can get the teachers a pay increase, as well as some of the other employers. And it just, to me, is an excellent job. And that's what you have to do, is to go out and find that money.
And listening to you, is it maybe the model of education? I don't want to say broken, but maybe it needs to be looked at. That that basic high school diploma model maybe doesn't fit for everybody. Are we getting to a point where it's almost getting to be more niche driven to meet the students' needs and their interests, to keep them engaged, keep the problems from happening in the classroom? Is that kind of where we may be headed with K through 12 education?
I'm not sure. One of the things that I've been blessed by is to be part of different educational systems, particularly in the foreign countries such as Switzerland, Singapore, South Korea. Some of those are top performing schools.
What do they do so well that we don't in this country?
I think some of it is just a different culture and engagement of parents, engagement of understanding the value of it. And that's one thing I know we're working on even at an early age, to get parents involved with children that are 3 years old and above. And when you have that, then you start having a little bit more value to education, more attentiveness, less discipline issues. But back to your question, as far as, we heading in a different model, I think you're going to see from VISD, and of course, if I'm not elected, I couldn't tell you, but if I'm elected, then I think we're going to be moving more to a non-traditional type way of learning, so that we can help those students that typically may not be engaged and seeing some of the opportunities. So I know we've looked at 4 different models. We're still looking at that and seeing what we want to do, and hopefully we can get closer to that. And actually, tomorrow night, we're going to start talking about vision in our special call board meeting.
Those models, is that something that this community task force was involved in?
Absolutely. And Dr. Shepard was involved in bringing some of that, but also absolutely the task force said, this is what we see as the needs. These are the things that we as a community business leaders are going to need in our employers and the skill sets. And so we appreciate that.
One thing that I hear from parents, I don't have kids that school age anymore, but probably thankfully, but a lot of my friends that do just can't believe the homework kids are bringing home. And that has changed, even from when I was in school. We had time in class to get the work done, and it doesn't seem to be the case anymore. How do you address those concerns for parents who feel that, their kids get home and all they do is homework, and then they go to bed and then they're right back at it the next day, and maybe there's some burnout involved?
Well, I will tell you, I've experienced two different sides of that spectrum. So in Oriental culture, they're so competitive. They realize that they're competing against large nations like the United States. And so they're on the study side. They're studying at the elementary level till 11 and 12 at midnight.
Wow.
And then you got the other side of like Finland and some of the European countries and Switzerland. They don't have homework. And so both of them are succeeding. So I think to answer your question, I'm a fan of doing some work, not just too much. I think we all come home from work and we have things we have to do sometimes. And so I think that's a great lesson for the kids to learn.
Some of it, I think, is expectations. I have a friend from Norway that I knew in college and still keep in touch with him. And I was amazed and almost blown away at the fact that in order for him to graduate high school, he had to know 4 languages. Mm-hmm. Norwegian was one of them, but they didn't even teach it. They expected you to learn it because that's your native tongue. Yeah. And then they mandated English. Mm-hmm. So those are the 2 you had to learn. And then you had to pick 2 others to learn on your own. Yeah. And when it was all said and done, he's fluent in 6. Yeah. He didn't stop at 4. He works in business and sales internationally, in the fishing trade. He knows Russian. He knows German, Norwegian, English, and I can't remember. I think he knows Swedish, which is somewhat close, and I think he knows and one other language. And they've all served him well because he deals with the fishing industry, commercial fishing industry, and he's selling equipment in all these countries that are on the water. But have we gotten to a point maybe as a country, our bars too low?
Absolutely. I think our bars too low. We should have more higher expectations. And here's what I mean by that. You talk about languages. The benefit of a language is it begins when you start to study that language. You have to understand the English language. And that's a benefit to be able to do better in your English courses and be able to study that language. I've actually asked the superintendent and the administration to look at Chinese. I've studied Chinese, and I just see what's happening in the world and how China is becoming more prominent. And it's no doubt that not any China has definitely made a play and said that they want to continue to be a powerhouse in the world. And I think it would do nothing but help us in that position.
So Brett, take the last minute here and just tell the voters in District 3 why they should vote for you to continue as their trustee on the Victoria Independent School District.
Great, thank you. So I feel like I'm very action oriented. I have experience in leadership, business development, and I think that's very key we all bring different skill sets to the board. And that's one of the skill sets that I bring and ask questions and have a different perspective and ask the administration and my fellow board members to think about X, Y, or Z. And I think that's what's helped me to earn that respect from the voters as well as my fellow board members.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you stepping in.
Thank you.
Enjoyed getting to see your viewpoints and understand your experiences a little bit better, and get out there and vote on November 3rd.
Yes, and early voting continues today, and this weekend, as you know, it's going to be for the first time at the University of Houston. Yeah, I'm
going to be at the University Commons building this weekend. Saturday's early voting on Saturday and Sunday in several other locations. I think 7 altogether around the county, and we can get a list of those for you. I'll check with the elections administrator and get that information out there. But early voting continues or ramps up this weekend, and we're only 13 days away now, I think, to the election. So appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I know you're a busy man, so we'll get going. Brother Gary's chomping at the bit here, as always. So appreciate you stopping by, and
thank you.
We'll get out of here. We'll see everybody mañana. Bye, folks.